You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Monday, May 20th, 2019. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we are doing a special series dedicated to all of you that received your first communion this spring. I know lots of Sprouts have made that huge step and received that incredible sacrament. So if you're one of them, or if you received it in the recent years or are looking forward to receiving it in the coming years, this is an important week. We are going to talk all about Eucharistic miracles. Eucharistic miracles. Now, what is a Eucharistic miracle? Well, we believe and we know is true that Jesus Christ is truly present in the Eucharist. Even though it looks like bread and wine, we know that it is truly Jesus' body and truly Jesus' blood. That is why we treat them so reverently. That is why it is such a big, amazing deal to make your first communion. We believe that this is true. Now, here's the thing though. This is a little bit crazy. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that this can be a little bit of a crazy thing to believe. Even at the time when Jesus was alive and he preached and he told them, my body is true food, my blood is true drink, people thought that was crazy, and he actually lost many followers when he said that, but he didn't care. This is the truth, and he wasn't going to change it just so that people would follow him. So it is a difficult thing to believe, and we are asked to believe without proof. It still tastes like bread. It still looks like bread. It still feels like bread. And yet we know that although it is in the same form physically, it has been utterly changed into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. Now, there have been many times during history, however, when the Eucharist that has been consecrated and changed into Jesus' body and blood has done miraculous things. Most often, we are going to hear this week about times when consecrated hosts, things that still look and feel and taste like bread, have bled. They have bled with real blood. And all sorts of amazing miracles have happened around the Eucharist. Now, why has this happened? Well, God knows that we are human. He knows that it is hard to believe. In fact, after the resurrection, his friend Thomas didn't see Jesus the first time he appeared to the apostles. And Thomas said, I am not going to believe this unless I can put my hands in his wounds. Jesus again appears, and this time Thomas is there, and Jesus invites him to put his fingers in his wounds. Of course, Thomas falls down in profound belief, but Jesus says, blessed are those who believe and do not see. And that's us, my friends. Blessed are we because we are asked to believe without tangible proof. And yet God often has had pity on us and given us some proof anyway. Many of the Eucharistic miracles that we're going to talk about this week are things that you can still travel and go see. They are in churches as proof, even after hundreds and hundreds of years in many cases. They are still there for us to see. Everything that I talk about on the podcast this week is a fact. It's not a legend or a story or something that might have happened. It was oftentimes tested by scientists and is still in an actual church on display today. The Eucharist is real. The Eucharist truly is Jesus present. And this week we're going to talk about the miraculous times where Jesus has proven this through a Eucharistic miracle. And so, Sprouts, what I want to challenge you to do this week is to really evaluate your own belief in the Eucharist. Many of these miracles came about because a priest was struggling to believe that the Eucharist was real. They were struggling. Maybe they didn't fully doubt, but there was just that hint of doubt that they were struggling with. And my friends, that's common. Pretending that we don't have that struggle won't do us any good. Instead, what we need to do is turn to God and pray that He give us the gift of faith. As we've talked about in other episodes, faith is a gift from God. It is a theological virtue. So, my friends, evaluate your faith in the Eucharist. Talk to a faithful adult about it if you have any questions, and come back tomorrow when we start talking about the amazing Eucharistic miracles that have been witnessed and experienced throughout the world. That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God intended you to be. One final word to the grown-ups. Thank you so much for listening to the Catholic Sprouts podcast. I would like to invite you to join a special Facebook group just for those that listen to the Catholic Sprouts podcast. We will use this group to connect, to share resources around that week's theme, and simply celebrate raising future saints. To find the direct link to the Facebook group, simply check the notes for this podcast episode.